The air is cold, but at least it's free. We'll talk about all that and more right after this on the Morning Waffle. So I got this really cool thing on my truck where I have an app, and I can go to the app and I can hold down the button to start my truck, and it just like goes through the ether and out there, and the truck gets a signal and the truck starts, and it's just this wonderful feature, and it works so good. Except this morning it didn't work.
No.
when I really wanted it, and I'm like hitting the button over and over again. Please start, and it wouldn't start.
I'm picturing you going, well, I guess I can't drive today.
I can't drive.
It's not warm.
That's the only way to start the truck.
But
What
it
can
doesn't
I do?
work.
I honestly don't normally use it because it's kind of a hassle to open up the app and you kind of get logs in and you hold down. It's easier to get in the truck and hit the button in the truck, right? So I don't use that often, but this morning I'm thinking, I'm looking at my watch, it says it's 0 degrees, which my watch now says it's -1 degree.
Oh, really?
-1 is what I'm getting, right? That's your weather for the day
disgusting.
right here on Planet 417. -1 degrees outside in
Missouri or
Rogersville.
Minnesota?
I was us Missourians aren't used to this.
No.
These shenanigans.
But I was thinking today, I'm going to start the truck by remote, and it's going to get a little warm in the detached garage, which, you got to be careful about when you start your car where it is.
Don't gas yourself.
By the time I get out there, I can open the door, it'll air out, I'll be fine, it's all good, right? But it wouldn't start, and I was super bummed, and we're in that house remodel right now, and it's kind of interesting because we use dual fuel, so we've got gas when it's really cold and the heat pump when it's not. Yeah. But since we're living in the basement, it's kind of, it's
kind of touch and go.
It gets so hot down there, burning that gas, trying to keep that upstairs.
Yeah.
Because the thermostat's upstairs.
Oh,
of course, it's really open now, and they've been cutting out walls and jazz, so it's
you're in a sauna situation downstairs.
Yeah,
it's so fun living in a house while it's being remodeled.
And then going out in the cold, from hot to cold.
Just had a tough go. Had a rough morning.
Feel sorry for me, please.
I do. I
Pity
feel deeply sorry for you.
So very,
Will.
very sorry. First world problems.
We're doing. Amen. 100% first world problems.
Well, something happened yesterday.
Really?
Boy, it was a big deal.
I don't know.
Tell me.
I really didn't pay attention.
About 9 people got preemptively pardoned for anything they might have possibly done in the past 10 years. Like if they did anything wrong, we're just giving them a pass. We don't know what it is.
Oh,
man. We don't know, but we're just going to give them a pass.
Red flags there.
15 minutes before his term ended.
That's insane. And regardless of who you like or don't like, I would hope that people could look at some of the stuff that's happened in the past month and be like, oh, maybe we did have some problems there.
Golly.
Maybe some of the concerns were warranted.
Well, when you go around and all of these positions that that the incoming administration is going to eliminate, you extend them 5-year employment contracts prior to that date. And
break the contract. Let them sue you.
Well, yeah, that's
I mean, they're
clearly
It's
what's
a
going
peaceful
to happen.
transfer of power.
And my whole
Yeah, and
deal
this
is,
was not.
Right.
This really was not. This was we're building all of the roadblocks, all of the blockades that we possibly can.
yeah.
We're selling the materials that have been stockpiled at the wall for pennies on the
Which was
dollar,
insane.
which does nothing
What's-
but hurt the American taxpayer.
What's worse?
It's like a bad divorce.
People marching in Washington and yes, in many ways wrongly entering a federal building. You know,
Yeah.
is that worse than what is done under the surface with a pen?
Not even close.
It's. I mean, that's
Not even close.
That's what's interesting, and again,
Well-
there are two categories, right? And I do appreciate that Trump only pardoned those. J6 people that really just kind of wandered in. Like
It wasn't a blanket.
It wasn't a blanket. It's not like he just said you're all off. I mean, there's some that are still
Oh,
going to
well,
face.
and
And there was a
consequences.
couple of layers to it. Some of them were not pardoned; their sentences were merely commuted.
Right.
Which is a legal distinction.
Sure.
It's-
So the
But-
people who
but
did
my-
the
but my
violent
point
part
is,
of it
like-
weren't pardoned.
What's worse? I mean, because come on, this is far worse to sabotage. And I know this happens with every administration turnover, but
Well, not to this degree.
it's
though.
it's pretty dirty.
We,
Yeah.
if you remember back, we know that in 2016 they trashed the computer systems. The Obama administration
Right.
trashed the computer systems and destroyed offices and things like that on their way out.
It's
Brilliant.
gross.
And I don't know that it didn't happen on the other
is.
side, but I certainly didn't hear any news reports about it. And I would think the leftist news media we had would have been all over that.
You would think.
Did you hear the story that they're running now? This just gets me because so Elon Musk is
Oh, I
speaking to
know.
his
Yep.
speaking to his people and says, from the bottom of my heart to you. And they
that's
take
the Hitler
that
sign.
picture and they go, and it's
Yeah.
on multiple news outlets. Hitler,
Highly
Nazi
Hitler. It's a
salute.
complete joke.
Yeah.
Like,
It's-
come
it's
on, people! You
ridiculous.
took a screen grab of
Yeah.
him throwing his heart
And
to
an
the people.
awkward
There's
guy.
there's a European soccer guy I listen to for soccer.
Yeah.
Do not agree with his political views. Well, he had posted. He's all up in arms. He left X, when Musk bought it and made it X and not Twitter.
I
But
love X now. It's
so
you
this
get all
guy.
the
I mean, he said
unfiltered.
blank the Nazis. I knew exactly what he was
Yeah.
referring to, and I read through a little bit of the comments. And people were saying, "Man, I don't." If you lived over here, you would understand it's not what you're being told. And he
Yeah.
was just combative on every one of them. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what they're telling you over there in the UK, but that's
Yeah.
not the story,
Yeah, I unfollowed and unliked a local news outlet for doing that story this weekend.
You should.
Yesterday, 'cause
Because
I'm
it
like,
was
come
irresponsible.
on.
There's zero credibility when you run a story
That's
like that. Your
insane.
credibility goes
It's
to the
gone.
negative at that
Absolutely.
point.
It's
Because
gone.
you're not just being wrong. You're being actively wrong.
It's
You're
dangerous.
you're being intentionally wrong.
It's freaking dangerous. That's what these people don't understand.
Yeah.
It's dangerous to be spreading this type of
Yeah.
Hi Beth. Good
misinformation.
morning. The comments are
crazy.
now at the upper left of the screen. So
Oh.
I think
Good morning,
for
Beth.
Alex's show they've changed. They moved the.
Okay, I do have a question. I don't know if you guys know the answer to this or not. Okay, I am not on TikTok. I never downloaded the app because I'm at app max, right? I just don't want more apps in my
I
life.
don't have it either.
And so I've never had it. I think we all have known from the beginning that it, takes information from U.S. citizens and it goes over to China, right? Because it's a Chinese company.
Yeah, but it's not the only one. I mean, let's
Let's face
All of
it.
them.
Yeah, let's face it. So, okay, so I do have a question about this. This is a legitimate question because I don't know. So I do know, I vaguely remember when Trump was wanting TikTok. I don't know if he wanted banned or taken down. I don't know what he wanted, but there was a time frame where Trump was against TikTok in some capacity or another. I don't know. And then now TikTok got banned, which I kind of thought was funny over the weekend.
It was hilarious.
And
the
then it went
meltdowns were
down.
fantastic.
And then-
unfortunately, we didn't have TikTok to watch the meltdown.
Yeah. But then I think it's back, maybe.
Yeah, it's
but then
back.
Trump says he's going to sign. Does Trump say he's going to sign?
Well, what he did,
What happened?
so they had a deadline. ByteDance did, the parent company of TikTok, had until like January 19th to divest themselves, sell TikTok to a different company, American company, something like that, to where the Chinese Communist Central Party was no longer
Could more control
have
in a secret
access to
way.
that. Yeah, and so that didn't happen. So the ban
more
went into
step to go
effect,
through.
and Trump said, "I'm going to give them another 90 days." So he just extended that deadline. Now, ByteDance still says they're not selling, so we're at
but why is he extending
impasse.
it if he was one of the original people that openly spoke against? That's what I don't understand. What is going on
now
in this
that I don't know.
world?
Probably so that he can take a little more control of the process would be my...
My assumption is, frankly, one of his wealthy buddies wants to buy it. Well, they've already offered. But I'm just saying, like, it has become so difficult to have any clue what the heck is going on. Because, like, you hear one thing, you see these other reports, and it's like, well, maybe I should, like, dive into this and try to learn a little bit more about it. And the more you dive into it, the more you get confused about it, and the more bad information you see, so you don't even know if you trust anything's real or not. And that's why we have a huge problem right now.
Well, actually, that's why I really like X nowadays, because of the community notes. So if you read something on X and you question it, if there's not already a community note on it where other people have said, well, actually this, you can click the little three dots and say request a community note. And then there's a cadre of private citizens, not people that are
I trust
employed.
a private citizen, a random person on the internet about as much as I trust.
Well, but at least it gives you that other perspective. You can see people who have a different, and you can then compare and look and use your brain and go, okay, this provides context or not. It's helpful.
Facebook is also adopting the community notes idea. Is that what?
I think I've heard that.
Isn't it interesting how he's changed his tune?
Boy, he has, hasn't he?
They all have. They were all sitting front and center at the inauguration. They were just lined up like little.
Really interesting.
Nice.
I saw a video on Reels, because that's what I've been on this whole time, but I don't watch it nearly as much as a lot of people watch TikTok. And it was Theo Vaughn's chair falling out from under him, I think at one of the inauguration events. Jake and Luke Paul were behind him. Danica Patrick was next to him, and someone's like, what is this, the biggest fever dream that's ever happened on the planet? Like, why are these people? Like, what is going on? It is bizarre.
Danica Patrick, I haven't even heard that name in a long time.
Why is she sitting next to Theo Vaughn behind Jake and Luke Paul, and why are they at a presidential inauguration? Like, what is going on?
I almost don't know who any of these people are.
I mean, I think serious fever dream. Like, weird other dimension.
Well, Dana White was there somewhere. Joe Rogan's hanging around. These people are there.
It's a lot.
Wow.
It's a lot. It's a lot to process.
We live in a bizarre world. It is a strange time for sure.
We do.
And I'm trying to make sense of it all. I mean, it's what's the next 4 years going to look like? I don't know.
I don't know.
I'll say I'm not a fan of executive orders in general.
Same.
I do understand much of what was signed yesterday was an attempt to reverse other executive orders that had happened in the previous administration.
And that's really kind of where you have to look at that. Are we creating new? Are these executive orders creating new things that we as American people have to deal with? Or are we getting rid of the crap that's already there? And that's primarily what Trump's been doing, what President Trump's been doing, is he's been clearing away the crap.
I do like the idea that, okay, there was work going on before the inauguration and ready to go day one. I made the joke to Shayna yesterday. I'm like, I think Trump's made more public appearances in one day than we saw for 4 years.
With 100%. You're darn right he did.
Getting after it, and so there's something to be said for that. But golly, I mean, we have systems for a reason. You want to see the process.
Oversight is important.
Right.
Well, and I was listening to a news report this morning, and they were talking about DOGE. The department says, one of the things that they have to do is they have to look at these agencies where they're going to say, is this an administrative agency or is this a legislative agency?
Right.
So some of these agencies are created by the executive branch, come from the president's office directly. They've got broad discretion over what to do with those. Chop those up all they want because they're solely created by executive order, legislative power, or executive power. The legislatively created entities are a little bit different. They're going to have to work through the legislature in order to trim those back. So there is that balance, and we will forever be debating that balance because as an executive, your job is to execute. You have to do things, and that means you have to tell people what to do. Typically, those types of things are called orders.
Right.
So we give executive order to tell people that work for us what they're supposed to do. How that's supposed to work out, I don't know. But sometimes clearly we have overstepped those executive orders into the realm of legislation, which is creating the law of the land.
And that's what bothers me. Legislating by a pen is never
the executive branch is not allowed to do that. Neither is the judicial branch, and they've overstepped as well.
Right.
So I don't know. It'll be interesting. The one thing I do think that is unique about President Trump is, in my entire lifetime, save perhaps Reagan, who I was almost too young to really be paying attention.
Yeah.
Right.
I wasn't. He's the only president that has ever said, I'm going to have a sandwich for lunch today, and by golly, the guy has a sandwich. And I mean that as a metaphor. I mean, he does exactly what he says he's going to do.
That's right.
In bright, stark contrast to every other president that I've ever lived
anywhere
under.
In between. He's going to do what he says.
If he says he's going to do it, he's going to do it, except for the hyperbole stuff. I mean, and we recognize, those of us that are rational and not living in the leftist bubble can recognize the hyperbole when we see it.
I don't know. His communication style makes it hard to always know the difference between the two.
There's maybe a blurry edge. Like, I wasn't really sure he was going to rename the Gulf of Mexico Gulf of America.
That's a
and he
example.
did. He did. Executive order. He's like, we're now calling it. I believe that's right.
He put it in there.
I'm pretty sure he did.
Way.
We may have to ask the Chat GPT about that. I'm pretty sure he put in there that we're now calling it the Gulf of America. Now, I saw a really funny meme about that. It was a map of the Western Hemisphere. And it was the map was renamed. It was Comerica, Americo, the American Ocean, the other American Ocean. Everything was Bramerica, Americatina. The whole thing was everything was renamed America on there, which was just amusing and hyperbole.
I think at the end of the day, my opinion lies here.
Lauren trying to bring the voice of reason.
The people making a lot of decisions for us don't have quite as much to lose as the average Joe in America. Obviously Trump could get shot. I mean, I think they've tried to do that.
There is that.
There is that.
And I place blame on that in the liberal media because they are stoking a unhealthy fire that's going to cause.
Well, that and the Iranians, but
yeah.
So
they
1-1.
Too.
1-1.
Yeah.
So,
that was the Libyans. Never mind.
I think it's easy
Back to Future flashback.
It's easy to play chess and manipulate things and do crazy broad things when at the end of the day you get to go home in your big mansion and be comfortable. Mm-hmm. It's real easy to do that.
Well,
hold on, pump the brakes. Hold on.
I'm not arguing with you.
What's not easy right now is figuring out how to pay your new insurance bill that you just got.
Right.
Or figuring out how to buy groceries. Right. Or figuring out how you've been paying $700 a month for health insurance and you can't afford the $10,000 emergency room bill.
Yep.
So these are the things that the average person is dealing with, and other broader things. Concerns: are my kids getting educated like I want them to be? Or can I trust anything I see? Mm-hmm. These are the things that the average person, who I feel like is not like me, example, who was involved in politics and has now been pushed out of it because of how uncomfortable it makes me. There's a lot of people like me out there.
Well, correct, because a lot of people have not read the two treatises by John Locke. They've not read Capital by Karl Marx. They've not read the Communist Manifesto. They've not read the Federalist Papers, and they've not read the Anti-Federalist Papers, and they really have no concept by which to underpin your theory of government.
I've not read any of that stuff, and I have a general idea of how things legitimately work.
Sure.
And I know communism is bad, and I know, and the thing is all these theories, though, don't really exist in the real world. They're theories, they're ideas that have a pattern, they have evidence that supports them, but because we are all imperfect people, they don't work just like they're supposed to.
Well, there are arguments, not arguments, but there are theories on both sides. But when I made a statement like that, what I mean is people are unable to recognize the full impact of the things that sound good on the surface, but they don't really have the background to understand.
Agree with that.
Just look at this theory. We've talked about this on here. the minimum wage laws they kill everybody. They're the worst idea.
Oh, I totally agree with that.
And they're the people they hurt the most are the poor. So in the last 4 years, the number that I finally found that I had rarely seen was, you say, oh, inflation rate's 4% or inflation rate's 7%. The total inflation over the last 4 years is 22%.
That doesn't surprise me.
22%.
Yeah.
So it costs you 22% more
I think
to
that's
live
100%
today
accurate.
than it did 4 years ago when Joe Biden took office.
I agree.
So 22%.
And nobody's making 22% more
No,
at that
no,
lower,
nobody
or
is.
that lower earning.
Nobody.
For sure.
Well, actually, the minimum wage has grown more than 22%. Well, no,
Okay,
it
the
hasn't.
buying power,
I take that
yeah.
back. It hasn't.
Yeah, I don't think it has. That doesn't
I have an English degree. Sometimes my math fails me. But that minimum wage law will always hurt the people that earn the lowest amount of money every single time. Right. It's like gravity. That law, you can't change that. It will do that, and it just baffles me.
It just
baffles me that anybody would ever advocate for an increase in the minimum wage.
For inflation
let's
is
be
what you're
honest,
doing.
though. The reason that originally happened was because of people treating people badly. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Well,
But whether it was the right response or not, that's why it happened.
There may have been. I'm sure there were. There was.
This is where the conversation. I think what you're really trying to say is, I mean, so for example, the phrase corporate greed. Mm-hmm. When people kick against socialism, they're not saying corporate greed does not exist.
I don't disagree with that at all.
We're simply saying that corporate greed can't be combated by government greed. And so, so we have to define the terms and say not every corporation is greedy. So going back to when minimum wage came about, not every wealthy businessman was greedy and not taking care of his employees, right? And so that's where we have to define the terms a little bit and say this law came into existence because some were treating
there were
the
some
lower
large problems
and
they tried to
poorly.
fix it.
Here I think maybe is a
legislate
different way to look
Yeah.
at it, which is to say cancer's bad. The cure for cancer is death. Because when you kill the patient, the cancer dies. And so that's what I think we have reached in some of our solutions is, well, the problem is so bad, we're not going to look to see if the solution's worse. And that's where we've got to with a lot of these. So you have a minimum wage law. Well, now the business owner says, well, okay, if I have to pay my workers 10% more, I'm just going to charge 10% more. It's a very rational response to make.
For sure.
Well, now you've got people, well, that raised prices. Now our minimum wage didn't work. So what's the answer? Well, we're just going to have to stop those people from raising their prices. So now we're going to say we're going to raise the minimum wage, but business owner, we're going to fix the prices. And don't think we didn't hear that floated in the last political election. We did.
Oh, I know. We absolutely heard that.
So now you've got this. We're going to raise this and we're going to keep this. Well, what is that? That's communism. Mm-hmm. That's literally what communism. We're going to fix the prices. We're going to fix the wages, and the government's in control of all that. And we're not asking the question, is not that solution worse than the problem? Because it is, because now who wants to be the business owner? Not me.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't make any, I might as well go pick the
cotton. Work for the government.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, these are all things
Yeah.
I understand, and I think a lot of people have a general surface level of understanding who are rational, and most of these government problems are our government deciding they can fix problems that a minority of people are facing. That is the majority of the issues with government. I don't necessarily even believe that. I think a lot of the true problem in the government of the United States came from, in the beginning, generally well-meaning people on both sides trying to fix things. And what my experience is, though, throughout our existence as a government.
1789.
Yeah, exactly. So we're trying to fix things, and then it becomes it's getting bigger, it's getting more funded, and then it becomes a gravy train thing. Mm-hmm. And now we are in the gravy train decades, where the government has become a system that allows millions and millions of people in the country to get benefits, wages, all of these things that they were struggling to get in other places. And so why would you, if a government employee, want to cut your own arm off. So
Well,
that's what's
yeah,
happening.
that's
it's
exactly
it's
it.
the two big, which to me, having worked for gigantic corporations, some of the biggest in the country, was the same thing I saw there.
Well, they did a pretty darn good job in 1789. I mean, they did a really nice job, and they did really good up. Those first 15 amendments are pretty solid. But when they got to that 16th one, they really screwed it up because that's when the gravy train started. So if you're not familiar, the 16th Amendment is the first time it was ever constitutional for the United States government to tax its citizens directly.
And
we didn't have an income tax before that.
The question, though, is at this point we are at a new horizon in my mind. Not only in our government, our technology, the world that we live in, we're at a new place, right? Because 10 years ago,
Good morning, Jim Farrell.
the pace at which things are changing is much more rapid than it used to be. And so here I am as a 40-year-old person who is looking at the future saying, I really don't know what to expect. Whereas I'm not so sure that was super normal. I think none of us can tell the future, but there is a level of uncertainty.
It was easier to forecast.
It was a little easier to forecast. There is a level of uncertainty I don't comprehend.
Yeah, well, and I think
It's
that's
so
really
tangled,
an
right?
interesting perspective
Correct,
because
yeah.
if you were born, let's say, in 1400, your life was going to look pretty much exactly like your dad's life
Yeah.
and his dad's
this
life,
is
and your
the
kid,
important survive.
your kid was going to life was going to look just like your life. I mean, there was no from
Yeah.
1200 AD to 1400 AD. There's not a lot of change.
That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah,
Okay,
and-
and then
And
from
to be careful, let's not call that the glory days either.
No,
But-
I mean that was a harsh existence. Let's not be stupid.
Yeah.
That was and people romanticize that, and they're dumb. Trying to just survive and eat and get not freeze
I
to
love,
death.
All you
I love
have-
the homesteader movement right
Yeah.
now, the extreme, I should say.
Speaking of that, I saw a video that it was like the Ozarks it had the Ozarks was in a circle in the middle of the country. It says this is the best place to homestead. They have wonderful soil, and I'm like, we do.
Yeah.
Where's
As
our
the,
wonder-
as the early settlers of Stone County.
I saw some wonderful soil once.
It's called Stone County for a reason. I just
funny,
like to
but-
point out,
Go ahead.
just for anybody who thinks that was a great time to live, toilet paper was invented in 1857, and prior to that,
and that wasn't comfortable toilet paper. That was
no,
not Charmin.
that
But
was
yeah, people in general lived the same life. Let's be realistic. Up until about the invention of
Toilet paper.
the toilet paper,
big deal.
the train, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the other major things that
Television, radio.
television, radio,
Yeah.
and even then, it's kind of like I try to explain to people: the television of my generation is not.
The streaming services you have
the
today.
streaming services of my kids' generation, and we as parents and grandparents need to be mindful of that.
I have great uncles that grew up in a house that was basically one room loft,
Yes.
no insulation, one room schoolhouse. My dad went to a one room schoolhouse for a period of time. And it rode the horse to school.
Yeah.
That
I mean-
that's within our collective
And when you really
biological
think about it,
live
they
memory.
weren't living that differently, even than the people centuries before them.
But I mean, I think every once is a big deal for me to just think about the VIC 20 computer I had when I was 10 to the cell phone sitting in front of me now.
Yeah.
Far more powerful.
Well, my dad's he's got what's a computer
Yeah.
to the same cell phone in his
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah.
And
So
it's
I mean,
crazy.
That's a lot of change in a lifetime.
We
Yeah.
have a
Crazy.
situation where life is evolving quicker than it ever has before, period.
Yep.
No one can argue against that.
No.
Well, and yeah.
So we are in this trajectory, and a lot of people are uncomfortable because they have no idea what's next.
Right. Well, we're off the foundation too.
Yeah.
And so, back to Will's point, the original Constitution really set us up for success. I, for one, am thrilled to think of the 88,000 new IRS agents going down to the border to help build the wall, because
Love
that's
it.
all they have left to do. That was a
Give
great
him a
one.
hammer.
Yeah. And so, but that is what is interesting to me is. Things have evolved so much. The web is so tangled.
Yeah.
Don't be naive to think that in 4 years and with
Yeah.
100 executive orders
This is
that
gonna
this
be
gets
fixed.
untangled, because it is such a I mean, man, if you thought Clark Griswold's lights were tangled. I
Yeah.
mean, my goodness, this is
It's
so much
beyond
more.
that.
And so, how do you cut government cheese? How do you cut government spending when that's really what's driving the economy?
That's
So
a
when
real
you
good
when you
point.
start
Yeah.
making chops to this ball, you're not going to have a string of lights that work.
Surgery hurts,
Correct.
and that's the only way to solve the
Yes.
problem sometimes. And you need some time to heal.
I
And it's-
agree.
and
So it's
But
gonna hurt.
But
It's
my
gonna
point
hurt,
is,
It's worth
yeah.
it.
things may get worse before they get better.
For sure.
I think they
and
probably
that's
will.
probably going to make Trump
And
look like
what-
a really bad second
And
term.
your average person doesn't have the
Ability to
desire
survive through that change.
to process that, accept that, deal with the uncomfortable, because they never had to.
Well, you got to do it for the
mean-
children.
I agree.
You got to do it for
and
the
I
You're
kids.
going to have to suffer for a while.
But I'm just saying, what in my mind, what's going to happen is it's not going to be better for a while, and people and the media is so against him, unfairly so. I have never disagreed with that. Unfairly, he gets more negative media than any president we've ever had tenfold. I believe that.
You know, I think he's got a shot because the one thing, and he's nailed it. He's talked about it. Is our oil reserves? We have
We're rich.
liquid gold. We've got the liquid gold,
And we need to use our oil. It's
he'll
stupid
take the
not to do that.
oil.
It's the dumbest
His plan
thing
to take the
ever.
oil, bolster the economy with our own oil sales. We
Tariffs. He loves tariffs.
We do the tariffs. We protect our economy. That really can soften the blow of cutting all this gravy train government
Hopefully it
spending
can.
that so many people are living off of.
And he's right. If you get the tariffs right, we can quit taxing our people to death.
Yeah, and it transfers that. You throw that on to Billy Long, now our IRS commissioner, who was what? That's not funny.
No,
That's-
it's just
It is.
it is fun.
It
Not
is.
nothing against Billy personally, but like if you'd
From
been
Ozark
again,
auctioneer
I'm in
to
a fever
IRS
dream.
guru.
Like if you were gonna be like,
Billy Long was
Lauren,
a co-sponsor of HR 25, the fair tax
I'm
bill.
not trashing on Billy Long.
Love Billy
I'm just
Long.
saying, if you're like, and Billy, bless his heart, man, he has got in there and is committed and it does his thing. I have, and he serves, and I
Yeah.
appreciate Billy for that. But if you'd have asked me, like,
Yeah,
it's
20
that was
years
the
ago?
laugh. That was the last.
20 years ago.
I saw his ad in the news leader for auctions.
The host of Wake Up or whatever it was
Yeah,
back then
yeah,
morning on
Yeah,
KWBO.
and now he's the
I mean,
IRS czar.
I think
Yeah, love it.
I think it's amazing. to be as-
Hillbillies are rising all over the country. We got JD Vance and Billy Long, and we're going to make it happen.
With the fires in LA, like Convoy of Hope was just out there immediately,
Yeah.
and my not so nice thought in my head was, well, I hope not all, because that's not fair. I hope the people whose homes burned understand that the Christian hillbillies on those Convoy of Hope trucks are the same Christian hillbillies that
That you've
they
hated.
have been hating
Yes.
and making fun of
Yes.
for decades.
You would hope
That
so.
is a great comment.
And that
I like
has
that
been
take.
what's been churning through my head of like.
That's the take of the
because
day right there. I
don't
love that.
think
Yeah, that really
they
is.
sent semis from Los Angeles to North Carolina.
Nope.
Yeah.
So that's what's been churning through my head. Like
Yep.
that
All
person
that
who's
California
handing
wealth.
you that bottle of water. You might ask them where they're from and
Yeah.
who they believe is the most important thing on the planet.
Amen.
And
Yeah.
then process that.
Preach it, Lauren. Preach on.
So
Get it.
anyway,
Doing
and
a
good
good-
for
that's-
Convoy of
there's
Hope
your
for
hot
doing their thing.
take.
But you know what that's going to do? Bring more attention to this part of the world. And the Billy Longs of the world, more attention to this part of the world. And I think you're going to see things happen here that we can't even believe in 10 years too.
Yeah, that's true.
I believe that.
Hopefully, we are the influence,
Yeah.
the cultural influence,
Hopefully.
right? Because the common sense of the Ozarks really does need to make its way through the country.
Yeah.
We've let the coast 10 years later make its influence on us. Now it's time to go out the other
We
way.
got to go the other way. We're up for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's the point, actually, that Albert Mohler was making this morning. I was listening to the briefing, was that, Trump can make some really good progress in 4 years, but he's got to have a successor.
Right.
We need a Trump 2.0
Yeah.
Vance?
to take.
I don't
We'll
know.
find out, right?
We'll find out. I
Yeah.
think it could be. I would be
I
very much in
think
favor
he'll
of a
be
J.D. Vance presidency.
Far more active than Kamala was and her
Well,
whatever
hope
she
so.
did.
Well, I don't know what she did, but everything she did was wrong.
Yeah.
That's all I know. And
Cackled a lot.
I don't know, but I've got high hopes
scary,
for JD Vance. I've got super high hopes for President Trump.
I think Trump supporters have to be realistic. Like the people who were posting like yesterday, like this is the day I've been waiting for. Like you're gonna have to be realistic.
Yeah.
This is gonna be painful. Like it cannot immediately get better overnight because your average person is dealing with such extreme changes in their finances over the past couple of years.
Well, what I'm seeing from him right now is exactly what I think needs to happen, which is just like if you remember way back when, what did we call it? When our original George Bush went into Iraq, how did we win that? He said, shock and awe, baby, shock and awe. And I think that's what Trump's bringing, is he was just hitting hard and fast. And the leftist bureaucracy gets hit, and before they can recover, bam, they're getting hit again and getting hit again. We're cutting here and cutting there.
Yeah.
He's moving fast, and I think that's what it's going to take.
Yeah.
Get it gutted before anybody can react and start fighting back.
I have a close friend who's
You gotta kill this dragon.
FBI agent, and he said, "I don't know who my boss is. You know, the executive director resigned.
Love
now
it.
the assistant
Patel.
executive director resigned." And so it's like things are moving.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, "I don't know who my boss is, but things are changing
That's
real
good.
fast."
That's good. They need to.
Yeah.
They need to. So, amen for that. Pretty exciting. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a wild ride, just like it always is.
It's going to be a wild ride.
We'll be right here bringing you the commentary and the truth and all the good stuff right here on the
I'm
Morning
keeping my
Waffle. By
mullet
the
for this
way,
wild ride.
what'd you say?
I'm going to keep my mullet for this
It's
wild
a
ride.
good
It feels
mullet.
apropos.
It's
All
like
right.
a styled
Yeah.
mullet. Can we call it a styled
Yeah.
mullet?
Hey, I do want to remind everybody we're having a charity event right here at the law firm. It's going to be February 8th. That's Saturday. We're calling it Super Bowl Saturday.
It's going to be super.
It'll be from 10:30 to noon. If you'd like to compete, bring your soup. For tasting, we'll provide the little tasting cups. You just need to bring your soup and a donation for Newborns in Need. Newborns in Need
And
provides
was it dollars
blankets
to vote?
and
Is that what it is?
Yeah, and if you want to
Yeah.
come and taste, please bring some dollars or some change.
Two ways to participate: either bring soup,
Bring soup.
or come and
Yeah.
pay for soup, and
Yeah.
that money is going there.
Yeah,
to,
and
to
you
the
will
event.
vote for your favorite soup by dropping $1 or
Yeah.
whatever
And
in their
it's-
jar, and then all that money is going to Newborns
Yeah.
in Need, and that provides moms that
It's
have
a cool
newborns
thing.
that
I got to
need.
figure out what type of soup I'm going to make.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll also remind everybody, Safe Haven Now does their super, they don't, I can't remember that, Super Bowl something, but the Fordland store competes against the Rogersville store,
Yeah.
and so canned items, hygiene items, those can be dropped off at either location, and I want to say, I think it's toilet paper is given as a negative that counts against the other.
that's
So if
fun.
you
Well, it's
bring
only been
toilet-
around since 1857,
Right,
so
right.
yeah.
So if you bring toilet paper to Rogersville, it actually hurts them. So if you're from
so
Fordland and you want
Oh,
to,
so you can sabotage.
you can sabotage it, right? So
Oh, and what's happening at Story on Thursday night this week?
this one is flight night. So if you want to
cool.
sample single origin coffees, so we'll be open
And stay up all night.
Yeah.
And never sleep again.
Unless you have ADHD and then you just fall right asleep.
Yeah, I know.
and It's no big deal.
I get that.
So it's.
I do
some
not
people
have ADHD
Are
then.
not affected that
I
way.
can drink
so-
coffee and just.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not that guy, but yeah. Anyway, so that's coming up. So yeah, the Thursday nights have been a lot of fun. Last
That's
week was
cool.
the tutoring night. So we'll do that once a month. If your child needs help with any subject, we'll have tutors available at Storytime Coffee Company. We'll post that each month, so you know.
That's neat. I'm glad
We're
you guys
looking
are
forward to
doing that.
game night.
Game night is
We're
the
looking-
last Thursday.
Yeah,
of this
we're
month.
we're planning
And
on being there.
Whether you are just wanting to play board games or like Will, you're into Magic.
Gonna do our commander, our whole family,
Commander, is that what
bringing
you
our
call it?
commander deck.
Yeah.
That's what we understand is you're playing the commander version.
So yeah.
We're gonna nerd
Join
out here a
Will
little
and the
bit.
other nerds for that, or just come play some Monopoly or
Yeah, we'll be
Scrabble
there.
or whatever.
Hey,
Whatever
and
you play.
stay tuned. In half an hour, the Frontline Faith with Alex Bryant's going to be live on here for a couple hours, bringing news analysis from a Christian perspective. And he does that every Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 to 11. We're super excited to have him here on Planet 417. And that show, like I said, will be kicking off about 9 a.m. this morning. And, stay tuned. We got some more exciting
stuff.
things happening on Planet 417, maybe some new shows coming. We're in talks. We're in negotiations.
Negotiations. My
with
makeup person
some
failed
new
me
talent.
today.
Yeah.
It's me. I'm my makeup person.
But this crew, your
you're
longest
hiding behind
running
the
show on
No,
Planet
my
417, soon
stool's
to
too
enter its 5th season. The Morning Waffle will be back next week with special guests. See you then.
Bye, guys.